This is the Philosophy and Anime panel. If you're here for that Idol Master panel, that's in a different room at a different time.
And you will be disappointed if you stay here, but we hope you'll stay anyway.
So I'm Chips.
And I'm Fish, or Sushi.
And we are Fish and Chips cosplay. And we both like anime, and we both like anime that make you think.
This has been such a passion for me that I actually majored in philosophy, and I just graduated a couple of weeks ago. So if you're wondering about my credentials to speak on these things, that's them. And I think, Chips, your credentials are being able to hold your own in a philosophical discussion with a philosophy major.
Yeah, I'm an engineer, but I like thinking big thoughts, I guess. So go ahead. Running our slides today is Mark, a good friend of ours. So,
Basically, you might be wondering why we even bother discussing this. I hope that you are here to learn, and we all intend to learn. Can you scoot back, honey? I can't see. Thank you. So basically, anime isn't just for kids. Let me look around the room. Tons of adults here, and young adults, and it makes us think about deeper questions, maybe question our reality, question ourselves. It really broadens our horizons and can expose us to ways of thinking that we might not have expected. It can give us a different cultural perspective, especially when it relates very heavily to Japanese culture. And it can also give us just a broader world perspective because realms of fantasy and sci-fi open up new possibilities and tell us about what ifs. But mostly it's fun, we all can learn from it, and I hope that today we get to do some good discussions and maybe get into a debate, and do not be afraid to disagree with anything we are saying, because that is what philosophy is all about.
So the first philosophical principle that you see as a recurring theme in anime that we wanted to talk about is utilitarianism. And utilitarianism is a very interesting sort of basis for philosophical arguments about morality. And anyone who has seen Star Trek is familiar with this because Spock is very fond of saying that the good of the many outweighs the need of the few. That's the basic concept in utilitarianism. And essentially, the goal here is to look at the total amount of joy or pleasure or happiness in your group and try to maximize that total value rather than necessarily considering what one single person is experiencing. And taken to extremes, this can lead to arguments in favor of things like killing somebody to harvest their organs in order to supply those organs to people who need them to survive. Or there's a very famous novel that's sort of about a dystopian utilitarian society called The Giver, that many of you I'm sure have read. And some examples of this appearing in anime in both positive and negative problematic ways are in Gurren Lagann. There was an episode pretty early on that many of you I'm sure have seen in which there's this underground village where their resources can only support a population of, I think it was 50 people, which means that periodically when their population exceeds 50, they just exile some people. And in exchange for those few people suffering, the remaining 50 people are able to survive. But at the same time, pretty much everyone who they exiled before those three characters presumably died of exposure in the desert, which is pretty terrible. And another example is in Magic Knights Rayearth, where via the pillar system, a single person is basically imprisoned and chained and made to be unable to live their life and experience joy and relationships and love and all that, just to sustain the life force of the world that they are, well, the pillar of. So those are both negative examples of utilitarianism, basically, in anime, where they take the utilitarian principle and sort of turn it on its head and show you the immoral dystopian side of it.
Another one that I'm particularly fond of is phenomenology, and it's something that a lot of people sort of know about but haven't necessarily heard the term about, so I wanted to introduce it.